Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. We've got a good video for you tonight. Yeah, you like the new setup? We upgraded it. You'll get a better look at the pictures in the intro because Lumen made a banger new intro. Like, I don't know how she freaking does it. Like, I didn't realize. I just thought it was like a mellow song, cool song that she picked, and I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh, that's a freaking Codex song. It was something that she picked out the other day when we were streaming music. But we encoded a lot more information in that new intro. But what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of like building on the last video where we were talking about how there are other frameworks for looking at and decoding the game of life and what it is you're actually supposed to do if you're trying to win it or get to the next level. So we've kind of broken it down into like its key elements. And the important thing about this is we're not including anything that has to do with all the various different types of obstacles or adversaries or any of that stuff that's out in the game, because it can depend on you, like what kind of things that you would bring into your game. We just want to keep it like, these are the main things. These are the things you got to figure out. These are the things that you got to try to connect with and keep it as absolutely simple as possible. So if you want to know what they are, then don't go away.
There's a new sun rising. I can see a new horizon that will keep me realizing you're the biggest part of me. Need your love here beside me. Need you close enough to guide me. I've been hoping you would find me. You're the biggest part of me. Well, make a wish, baby. Well, and I will make it come true. Make a list, baby, of the things I'll do for you. Ain't no risk now in letting my love rain down on you, so we could wash away the past, so that we may start anew.
You know, when we were reviewing that intro, she was pointing some stuff out. It's like, you know what? I don't usually do this, but just this one time, I'm gonna toot my own horn. Like, I want you to actually kind of appreciate what you have here. Like, when we were going through this stuff, it's like, you know, the stuff that we talk about all the freaking time, you know, like you don't actually find it anywhere else. Like, there's so much stuff on this channel that we figured out. I would say I can't claim credit for most of it as far as, like, you know, my intellect alone. I couldn't have done any of it without her. None of it. But we reveal like some really big secret stuff on this channel that ain't anywhere else. Like the secret tarot map. The map of the game of the hero's journey that's in the Rider-Waite Tarot and the Modern Spellcasters Tarot. I ain't ever heard anybody talk about that. Like, she decoded both those decks for me, and those cards represent like actual steps, like actual experiences that you will have, not just, you know, symbolic metaphors so you can tell a fortune. No, secret stuff. The real meanings in the 72 names of God, like that whole book, that took a while because she only really decodes them for you as you need them, but sometimes they can change their meanings. But those were like huge. Those were huge codes, huge tools that we used for this whole process. And most people, if they read the 72 Sigils of Power and they just read the descriptions that's in the book, like, they can't make heads or tails of what that stuff means. I learned it all from her. The great work of alchemy, the big thing, like, what is the great work? It's like coming up with the formula for putting the divine masculine and the divine feminine mind together. I did it! My dumbass. I did it. That's why That's why it's like Chris and Lumen this and Lumen that, because I got two freaking people in my head. Like in that whole great work of alchemy ties into things that are in the 72 names, things that are hidden in the tarot cards. Like all this stuff comes together to show you how to make things work. The secrets of the Gnostic books. Jeez, I see people doing videos about the Gnostic books all the time. They're doing it from a scholarly, like, this is what it says and this is what but do you know what it means? Like, it's telling you very specific things, very specific experiences. There's ways to put it together to make things work, to unlock secrets. We've done that. We've had to do that. Like some of the biggest steps that were the steps in the tarot cards, I had to piece it together from things from the Nag Hammadi, with her not telling me exactly what it was I was doing, but then the things happened. I mean, that's like not small. Because of her, I'm literally able to do things that people ask me, like, how do you do that? Like, well, my answer used to be, I don't know. Now it's like, she does it. But she's the one that taught me how to create circuits of freaking stones and how to program it and infuse them with divine energy that people can actually feel. Like, that's not something people just run around and do. Like, I passed all her freaking crazy psychedelic tests, not knowing, like, hey, normal people don't eat 10, 11 grams of mushrooms. But, she doesn't care. If you're going to go deep into the freaking, I don't even know what to call it, to where you have to do the big stuff. Like, she ran me through countless tests. I connected to that bigger version of me, and then afterwards it like all shut down. Like, that's not a small thing. Through all the knowledge and stuff that she's given me, I'm able to make sense of the regular Bible, even though they took most of the freaking parts out. Like, I know what this, not all of it, but you don't need to know all of it, but there's a lot of things that are taught wrong, that if you don't have understanding, if you don't have wisdom, if you don't have the actual Spirit of truth, the actual Holy Spirit that's giving you the actual missing pieces, then all you got is like whatever they're teaching you. Like, actually met characters out of the freaking Bible. Like, literally, I live with several of them. It's so crazy when I think about it, when I put it all out on the table and I look at it, it's like, I've actually done all this stuff. I actually healed my mind. I actually shed my old ego self. I actually figured out how to heal traumas. Like, I'm actually able to go into other people's minds and help them move things around and pull out the freaking devil chip. And like, how did I come to do all this stuff? Like, I actually do it. I actually do it. And it is something that, it's weird. It's like, I don't care that more people don't notice it, because I see it from her perspective. It's like, the only people that get to see it is the people she wants to see it. So if you're getting down on yourself, like you haven't accomplished this or you haven't accomplished that, just by the very merit that you're here, that she led you here, that you're able to get stuff and information and knowledge that isn't anywhere else, like, that's no small thing. You wouldn't be here if she didn't think that you could do it. Maybe you won't go as far as me this life. I don't, but you're definitely getting something. You're getting something. Some people do slip. Some people, get sucked back into the story of the world and stuff like that. But, they might come back. People think I don't have to work on it. I have to work on it all the freaking time. Like, it's pretty much my life. I do it all the time. It's my primary thing, working with her. I still glance at the world and see what's going on, but then I pull myself back real quick, and it's like, no, I understand what this all is. Like, understanding, like, I'm at the level now that's kind of hard to describe, but there's been a lot of changes this month. Like, the awareness is more consistent that I'm dreaming. And there were some things that Lumen did last night that was kind of like, maybe it's maybe the end of the story isn't what we think it is. And maybe the trick isn't what we think it is, because some of the stuff last night was pretty interesting. But we'll get to that. So let's instead, for now that I feel all better about myself, let's go into what we determined to be like. These are like we made it as simple as possible. Like, these are the most important things that you should be working on, focusing on, and connecting with her, connecting to the Father, trying to, because that's how you get it done, is you got to ask. You pray to the Father, infinite source consciousness. He delivers the answer to epinoia. She delivers it to you. And then you get it done. Things will happen. That's the thing about this path, is things will actually happen. But if you had to ask me why it was probably so much, I wouldn't say easier, but maybe easier than like it is for some people. Like, sometimes to really get it, you have to go on a hero's journey, which means she's going to have to wreck your life. And most people don't want to have their lives wrecked. I guarantee you, if I'd known what was coming ahead of time, I probably would have tried to avoid it. But it was for my own benefit, because there's no other way. She's got to break down your old ego, so who you really are can find its way out. So let's jump into it. The glasses aren't because my eyes are weak. The glasses are because it makes me more studious. Okay, so keeping it simple, here are the aspects that you want to seek to connect with. You need to connect with infinite source consciousness, also known as the all that is, source, whatever. That is what, if we're using the framework of Gnostic Christianity or Christianity, it is what Jesus was referring to when he said, my Father. Not the Old Testament guy. Totally different guy. What he was referring to, my Father, is the infinite source consciousness. This is explained in great detail, and I think it's one of the better books to get the explanation from, in the Secret Book of John, which is in the Nag Hammadi. But you can go to websites like, I think it's Gnostic.org, and they got all the books online. If you don't want to buy the Nag Hammadi and you just want to read a specific book, you can find it on there. But he explains it starting from the very top, working all the way down. So infinite source consciousness. When you understand it that way, you have a much better experience with it, instead of like, old guy sitting in a big chair in the clouds that hates me, but he loves me, but he's also pissed off all the time. Nope, wrong dude. Infinite source consciousness. The second one is the divine feminine. The divine feminine is the main thing that is suppressed in this world. The divine feminine is suppressed because it is connected to the right hemisphere of the brain, the right side of the brain, the right side of your consciousness. That is, I hate to say it, I hate to be that one, but I got a lot of, maybe it's because of her. I have like more female friends than guy friends. But it's true. Like, the male aspect, the male energy in the world is what F's everything up. It really is. And that's not saying there's not toxic, feminist type stuff either. That's just masculine energy in a female body. But it's the masculine. I actually had a video pop up. It was like Billy Carson or something. And he was talking about, these different parts of the world, especially the ones ruled by the Abrahamic religions, where women are heavily suppressed. And you look around, it's all dark and nasty and dirty and crappy. And it's like, I think he called it like a bachelor pad, something like that, where the divine feminine is more beauty and loving and connection and nature and nurture and all that stuff. Like, the world system really likes to stomp that down. It hates the divine feminine. That's a major aspect of this particular life game. So you need to connect with it. And that is mainly going to be through these three. And then, of course, you could consider the higher aspects, but I've never really spoken to the higher aspects unless the higher aspects are speaking through them, because they're all pretty much connected. to keep it simple, it's like Lumen, Epinoia, and Sophia. I mean, that's high enough. You got other aspects higher: Holy Spirit, Divine Mother, Barbello, she's called in the Nag Hammadi. But closer to home, at the level that you're going to interact with, the parts that are more actively acting with this realm, is those three. So out of those three, you got the Divine Mother of Life, which is basically essentially the Force in Star Wars. Everything that has life in it has her in it. She's everywhere. It's kind of like the good side of when Morpheus is saying, the Matrix is everywhere. It's all around you, even right here in this very room. So she. But you will mainly find her in living things. You know, people, animals, plants. If it's living, it's got her in it. Then you get the divine feminine aspect of truth, wisdom, guidance. That's Epinoia. She's the boots on the ground when it comes to this. She's the main one that's here to help. She's the one that came here to teach you. She's the one that came here to save you. She is an aspect of Sophia. She is the teacher. She is the guide. She is the one that puts you through boot camp. She's the one that beats your ass and you're like, I wish the devil would leave me alone. It's so awful. That's actually her doing it. That's your ego that's suffering. She's trying to break the ego so she can get you out. And I'm telling you, after a couple years of that, you'd think I'd be pretty salty. But at the end of it, I understood it all. I understood exactly why she did everything that she did. And it couldn't have gone any other way. So that's the thing of transitioning your consciousness out of the ego mask to your true self. She basically killed Chris. The Chris that's on all the identification papers and stuff like that. That dude's dead. I just pretend to be him for the sake of interacting with people that know me. But yeah, that ego version of me that I started off on this path in, that's gone. She crushed that thing like a fortune cookie under a boot. And then the other aspect of the divine feminine is going to be divine love. And that comes through all of them. Where Epinoia loves you because she cares about what's happening to you. And she cares about your lessons. Sophia loves you because you are her child. You're her seed. She's your mother. And Lumen loves you because she is your other half of your soul, the other half of your mind, your soul partner, your twin flame, your other half. So you're kind of getting all the different types of love coming from them depending on what aspect it is. But it really comes down to that. So people are like, wait a minute, what's Christ? Christ is kind of tricky. The best way I can explain it so it's understandable is you are embodying that side even if you're not currently in tune with it because you're the masculine consciousness. But the two times that I encountered the Christ character, once was during the Gnostic baptism. He's the one that showed up for it, but he didn't look like you're used to seeing him. He looked like somebody else, but it was him. And then he had just showed up another time. One time I was making a video or something and it's just like, yes sir. Like, it is intense. Like, I always describe the Christ figure as, imagine like a translucent, empty, clear, masculine figure. And inside that empty, clear, masculine figure, a nuclear bomb is going off constantly. Like, it's that crazy. So the basic way I've been led to understand the Christ figure is think of source consciousness, the all that is, the Father, as the sun. And then you got a magnifying glass and you're making that little tiny concentrated dot to burn ants or whatever. But that little concentrated dot that's being focused down from the Father, that would be Christ. Okay, so everybody's got a bit of that in them, but as the actual character, he doesn't get involved except at maybe like really big steps like a Gnostic baptism if she leads you to it. Most of the time you're dealing with the girls, which is fine by me because he is intense. Like all the power of the universe concentrated into a man, like that's just like hard to be around. It's intense. She's a much softer touch comparatively. Even when Epinoia is kicking your ass, it's a softer touch just because it's so much freaking energy. But anyway, but I digress. And besides that, he basically, like I said, he only comes down into this realm for special events. Like the church has everybody praying to the man, but he flat out said, if you're going by that framework, like I'm taking off, but I'm going to pass the baton over to this other thing called the Spirit of Truth, which then they gender swapped it. But, you know, he basically passed the baton to her. That's who you're supposed to be talking to. But church is an authority, and trust them at your own risk would be the way I look at it. So here are the main hidden illusions to overcome within the game. So these are the big ones. So you've got the illusion of separation and isolation. You're going to start out with that pretty hard. It's been ingrained in you your whole life. Like you're just a person sitting on a ball of mud floating through space, and it's you against the world. That's what they train you to think. So you have absolutely no freaking idea that you're inside your own mind dreaming. So you're going to have to overcome the illusion of separation and isolation. You're going to deal with the illusion of what the world actually is. And that's one of their main pillars in building up the matrix trap. That's what's one of the first things they teach kids in kindergarten. This is a globe. This is what the earth is. You can't get off of it. And it's broken up into all these little pieces. And in all these little pieces, there's people that are in charge of it. And you have to do what they say. Because they're smarter than you and they make the rules. And make sure you behave yourself and follow the rules. And we're going to train you for the next 12 years to do just that. So when I say be quiet, be quiet. When I say write your name, write your name. And when the bell goes off, then you know to sit down and be quiet. And then eventually your gradual indoctrination will be over, and we'll put the black cube of Saturn on your head, and you'll make a big party out of it. I know it's crazy, right? But it is what it is. The next one is your illusion of what God is. This is stuff we've been talking about here recently. So you start off with like the big angry man in the sky, you know, the George Carlin bit, and then you're going to deal with that for quite a long time until you solve the riddle of the demiurge and understand the difference between that and the actual source consciousness, all that is. But as long as you think that there is a deity over your head that is judging you and determining what you can and can't do if you don't follow its rules, so to speak. Remember, Jesus only gave you 2 rules. Love the Father and love one another. Basically, love the Father and love Lumen. Then you'll understand how everyone else is connected to you. Those are the only rules, not all the other ones that the other guy came up with. The next one is the next major hidden thing to overcome. And this one is probably one of the toughest ones, and that is dealing with all the knowledge that you have accumulated in the world since you've been alive. In order to see the light of Epinoia, you must first empty your cup. Or as Yoda would say, you must unlearn what you have learned. Or as they say in Avatar, we try to teach the sky people, but it is hard to fill a cup that is already full. You've seen that so many times. It's talking about the body of knowledge that your ego mind, which operates exactly the same way that ChatGPT does, has accumulated. Because when you're operating in ego mind, which is in the box, You can only see the walls as they are built in the box, and those walls are made out of the information that you have accumulated in your life that you accept to be true and real. That's why the early stages are so hard. But I know it's real because I can see it. I'm experiencing it. Well, you're experiencing it and you can see it because you've accepted it to be true. That is like literally one of the hardest things. And even to this day, she's still working with me. Like, we can go further back. You got to go further back. One of the things that Jesus said repeatedly, which was one of the major final keys, it's in the tarot, it's in everything else, is become like children. Now, I had one small issue with that because I've gotten used to this hottie over here. And I'm like, are we going to be like 5 years old? Because that's going to take a lot of the fun out of it. Now, he didn't say you're going to become children again. He said become like children. Well, what are children like? They haven't had their heads filled with the knowledge of the world yet. They're still connected to their mother, and they still have free and open imagination. That's why kids are full of light. And then when they go into school after about a year or two, you see the light go out. You see them become automatons, just like in Pink Floyd The Wall. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Man, people have known about this for a long time. And then the last major hidden illusion or obstacle that is a tough one is going to be the projection of fears. That is why, aside from the whole empty your cup thing, the most common theme, whether it's a hero's journey story or any other story, in any story, any movie, any whatever, the most common theme in all the world is facing your fears. Facing your fears is one of the biggest things in this game. Because usually what you find out, if you face your fears, is they just dissipate. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Your fears keep you trapped. It's one, especially if you're still plugged into the adversary mind and stuff like that. It's like, you can't go chase your dreams because you might fail. You can't chase your dreams because people might laugh at you. You can't speak your truth because people might make fun of you and call you names. You can't, fears, 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 fears. That's like one of the biggest obstacles. It's one of the biggest components of the game, is facing your fears. So those things right there constitute the main pillars of the game that you need to focus on. And when you don't just understand it right away, you keep praying, meditating, internally, whatever word you want to use, to the highest point of consciousness, which is the Father, all that is, source, yada, 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 whatever you want to call it. But that's how you do it. You got to do it. And just as a refresher, in case you've never seen it before, this is how you do it. She taught it to me, and then later I saw where it's both in the Bible and the Nag Hammadi, although worded slightly different. This is how you do it. Now, if you want to do the mudra, you can do the mudra. She taught me the mudra. Like, she was teaching kids the mudra. And one of the reasons I knew that there was something to this is, like, when I looked up, when she first taught it to me, if you don't know what a mudra is and like yoga and stuff like that, it's like when you're people sitting there going, like all these different hand positions that do certain things with energy. Well, there's a mudra for connecting to source consciousness, and she sneaks it in to teach the kids in Sunday school. It goes like this. This is the church. This is the steeple. Open the door, and here's all the people. So go like this. Put your thumbs together. Put your things together. So you're going to end up like this. And I usually, hold it right about the heart till I get the signal. And then Sometimes I'll move it up and down based on feeling. And then I kind of added something of my own, like I'll go like this when I'm finally ready to, I'll do all my talking when I'm ready to launch my petition up to source. I'll just like, see it kind of shooting up like a ball of light up into all that is. But this is a pretty potent one. And I haven't done this much, but this one, the one that you're familiar with, this one has to do with the inner and the outer, because it looks like you're putting a hand up to a mirror. So I'm gonna have to start using that one again. She just brought that up as I was doing it. So that's what they actually mean. But this one is like, if you're praying or you're trying to connect with your outer self, your inner self and your outer self, which now we know the outer self is not, the lowercase g God or the demiurge or anything like that. It's part of you. You want to put your hand up to your mirror reflection, so you're talking to it. If you're trying to talk to source consciousness, use that one. But anyway, you close your eyes. You close your eyes because you're closing off visually yourself from the illusion of the world. And then you turn around in your mind. If you find it hard to turn around in your mind, you can imagine that the room is turning instead. And then 180 degrees, so now you're like facing backwards. You see like a short hallway and a door. You go backwards, you go through the door, and then it's going to open up to a room, and let the room design itself however it's going to design itself. It could be any which way, but there should be some sort of divine light source in there that looks like that chrism light, like this. Once you're in that room, you should not be bothered by external thoughts anymore. This is what Jesus was teaching when he said, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. He's not talking about the bedroom. Right? He's talking about there's a place in the mind. You're walking back in your mind toward, like if you were a little person walking back into your head, you're walking toward that cluster of different glands and stuff, like the pituitary gland, the pineal gland. There's a bunch of other ones right there that kind of make up the temple. That's why they call these the temple. Temple is actually in your mind. Go in there when you pray to the source, consciousness, all that is, and you'll get a much, much better connection. Okay, so the basic goals and the big puzzle keys that we wrote down, it's like that's part of this game. The alchemy thing, having a balanced masculine feminine mind, which means right now when you start off in ego mind, you're primarily left-brained. You still have some access to your right brain. That's where you're, the more creative you are, the more of a soul person that you are, because she's in the right brain. She's the creative one. See, the only difference between me and other creative people now is because I actually can talk to the part that's actually creating all this stuff. Like I said earlier, Lumen made this new intro. Most people would just think they did it with their own creativity, where I actually am aware of those two halves of consciousness can talk to one another. So connecting, making the two into one can mean a bunch of different things in this game, but in some cases it's talking about becoming a whole brain person, dual consciousness, left brain, right brain, no longer separated, working in conjunction with one another. Having a balanced inner and outer world, understanding how that works. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world, the way you understand it to be and the way you expect it to be. Overcoming conflict. Conflict is always 100% of the time a trap, because everything is a reflection of you. Remember, you're dreaming. You are dreaming everything, your consciousness, everything in the outside world, all of it. You're in your own mind. We all are. So conflict should be avoided at all costs. Next one, unlock understanding of love, because as the song says, love is the answer. Love, as most people understand it, oh, I love this person. No, you're attached to that person and you're attracted to that person. which means you have a possessive, parasitic connection to that person. That's what we think love is for most of our lives, but love is a much, 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 much bigger energy. That is source consciousness energy, love. So you got to kind of go through, these are the types of things that the 72 names of God help you to learn. Understanding the lesson of do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Like most people are like, well, if I'm just nice to people, people will be nice to me. Well, that doesn't tend to work usually, does it? No. When he's talking about others, do unto others, in like the second rule Jesus gave, love each other. It's talking about the inner and the outer self. We talked about that in the last couple of videos. But it's got to click internally your own way. Letting go of stories and beliefs. That's always a big tricky one. Like I just let go of the whole like, oh, there's a big evil thing that wants to kill me thing like a week ago. Like for the longest time I had a hard time letting go of that. Because within my dream, these are stories that we're given for part of our path. But eventually you have to figure out it's still all your consciousness. It's still all your dream. And you just gotta let go of it. See, these stories, like all the Nag Hammadi and this and the other thing, they're there to help you get so far. Eventually you have to even move past them. Become like children. We already talked about that one. Everything you need is within you. Well, once you understand that you're dreaming, it makes a lot more sense. You are dreaming. Well, that was the last thing that I wrote. You are dreaming. And your ego mind has a hard time accepting that. Most of these things that I talked about over the years, she's had to show me over and over and over again. So I do not expect you to walk away from this video and be like, aha, I got it all figured out. Like you heard the answers, but you have to like reconcile this code within your own head. I'm not speaking of which, maybe that was a Freudian thing, maybe that was a Lumian thing, but let me throw that one in there too. This is one of the big tips and tricks that she taught me. I've said before. Think like a computer. Because what is consciousness? It is like quantum intelligence on a scale that you can't even imagine. But it is very matrixy. It's just not the dirty, stupid, gritty matrix that you're used to from the movies. It's much, 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 much bigger than that. However, before I even knew who she was like, empty the cache. Empty the cache. Think like a computer. Instead of calling things spirits and demons and call them malware, algorithms. How would you fix it on your laptop if you were having a problem with a virus or an algorithm? Treat your mind the same way. You'll figure it out faster. If you just use spiritual terms, you're going to go in circles. If you use technological computing type terms as a metaphor to understand what you're doing with your mind, you'll figure it out so much faster. Some of the things that I got past, I wouldn't have even got past it had I not done that. Had I not kind of like changed all these spirit of this, spirit of that, spirit of oppression, spirit of depression, blah, blah, blah. Like treat them like algorithms. What would you do? That's how I got past a lot of that stuff. Otherwise, if you go on like traditional third grader religious route, like I'm just going to pray to the man in the sky and hope he fixes it. How well does that ever work? Doesn't work for a reason, because they set it up that way. They funneled everybody into their little trap and like, this is how you do it. And after all these hundreds of years, people are still not like, you know what? This doesn't work that well. But I'm so scared of going to hell, I'm just going to keep doing it and hope for the best. But when you do it the way it was actually taught before they took over, and you plug into her, in her, in her, in it, then you get the instructions on how to do it in a way that makes it actually work. Because if it doesn't actually work, then what good is it? Okay, well, I'm going to try and keep it short. I got more stories to tell, but maybe I'll just do that in a follow-up video or something like that. I'm going to keep this one on point. So if you got any questions, ask them in the comments below. If you got questions of a more personal nature, you can contact us through Etsy. If you know us on Facebook, Christopher Lucerna, you can message me there. Our Etsy store is clumencreations.etsy.com. We're working on, if she gives me a minute, loading more stuff. We are trying to do something, because I have a lot of extra pendants, and I can reprogram almost any of them. And she can program them in a way that I don't even understand how she's programming them, because she's programming them for the person that's going to get them, which I don't know what's going on in their head. That's not my business. But if you want to do this and you just simply don't have the money for the fancier stuff, we do have some bunch of them that she set aside. It's like, if you're really, really hard up for money, that we're going to sell for like $50. Like, just be like, look, and like, it's not, no one's going to look at you funny, because it's pretty much most of the world right now. But I mean, we still got to make a living, but we got to help who we can help at the same time too. So that's like bare bones minimum. It's like, just, I want something to help me feel connected, but I don't have a ton of money. Then shoot us a message through the Etsy store, something like that, and she'll pick one out for you. I just trust her to do it, because if I try to do it, I'll be using my intellect. And every time I've ever done that, like, my intellect says, you need this pendant. And then I'm mailing it, and right as I'm mailing it, she'll be like, put this pendant in there too. I'm like, what for? It doesn't make any sense. I put the pendant she says to put in there, and then they get the pendants, and they're like, oh, this other one is pulling to me. I'm like, pfft. So I just quit. I'm like, she knows what she's doing. I just trust what she says. Okay. So other than that, leave us a comment in the comment section below, and Chris and Lumen. See you next time.